Hello, everyone. I am Jax West from Justice with Jax. Hi, Jax West from Justice with Jax. And we also have Stephen Avery Project and MAM Gossip. I am here today to talk about the latest episode of 48 Hours that covered Melissa Calusinski's case. Um, I have been writing for the last hour. I took notes during 48 hours last night, covered both sides of a page, and I've actually now already written up all my notes from that side. I only have that side left to cover. Once I'm done writing that, I will post that. So, for people who are not interested in watching a live video that just want to read the information, you'll be able to do that. Um, I am going to just read what I've written so far because that will be easier than just trying to go over it all again that I've been writing. And I go off into personal stuff on here. And I'm sure as I do this, I'll go off even more. I go off more when I'm speaking than when I'm writing. I do have comments set to be people who follow this page only can comment. So click to like or follow this page. Um, if you are here to declare guilt or anything like that, it will be deleted. Melissa is somebody, and as I read, I talk about that some, but Melissa is somebody who is. This actually was my very first visit with Melissa. Let me show you what I did. So in my first visit with Stephen Avery, I wore a Free Melissa shirt. So then in my first visit with Melissa Calusinski, I wore an Injustice Avery wear shirt because that's how I roll. But and I don't even have all my pictures up here with Melissa. So here's another visit and another visit. Why do I have 4 copies of the same picture up here? And here's the visit. Can I show this one? Here's one. So, okay. So, Melissa is somebody that I have been visiting for 9 years. She is like family to me. I love that girl. And so, I get really upset in defending Melissa. So, if people were to come on here and try and say she's guilty, that's why you have to be a follower because we're then going to delete your comments. So, all right. 48 hours last night. Well, let me just read it because I'm going to say stuff that I've got in my writing anyway. Okay, so last night, 48 Hours aired the 3rd episode. As I'm reading this, I have to edit now because I have a 3rd episode, but it should be the 3rd episode on the Melissa Kaluzinski case. The 2 prior shows were called Blaming Melissa and Fight for Melissa. Oh, let me give you this link. And I'm probably going to read what's in here on that too. How come, where is it where I can comment? Oh, I have to scroll all the way down there. Hold on. Here's the link for um Fight for Melissa. Um all right, go back to what I wrote. All right. Erin Moriarty has done a great job, in my opinion, covering this case over the last decade. I am so thankful that they have covered Melissa's case fairly, and fair is not a word you use often in wrongful conviction cases. Who am I? I am nobody. In December of 2015, I was snowed in and my husband was out plowing, and I needed to binge something. I have always loved true crime, and I saw something called Making a Murderer. I started it and then didn't stop watching until all 8 hours were done. Then, when my husband came home, I made him watch all 8 episodes in a row. I became very involved in that case and still am today. I am not going to talk about the Stephen Avery case here. I wrote a book on my beginnings with that case in a book I self published on Amazon called Making an Advocate for Stephen Avery. There it is, available in hardcover and paperback. It was my involvement in Stephen's case that brought me to Melissa. Early in 2016, I was contacted by her father, Paul. And as I read on, there are so many freaking Pauls in Melissa's case. So, oh, thank you, Cindy. So sometimes it might be hard to keep track of all these Pauls. Sorry, that's my boss. But as you're hearing my boss texting me, um, I sent her the link to watch the 48 hours episode of Melissa. So that was her now saying, okay, she got it, and she'll watch it today. So my boss, who is a state representative and also an attorney. Okay. Anyway. Okay, so I was contacted by her father, Paul. He asked if I could help in Melissa's case due to what I had been doing for Stephen. They both have the same amazing attorney, Kathleen Zellner. If you are wrongfully convicted, and I got wrongly. Is it wrongfully or wrongly? I'm going to change it to wrongfully convicted. She is who you want to represent you. Stephen's case is in Wisconsin, while Melissa is in Illinois, where I live. I do have a chapter on Melissa in my book, on Stephen, by the way. Let me see. It's been a long time since I've looked at my book. What chapter is it? Melissa is chapter 16. Where are you in here, Melissa? Well, I'm not going to keep taking up time, but I have a chapter in this book on Melissa. I have a Facebook page called the Stephen Avery Project, which has a lot of traffic. Whenever I can, I sneak in stuff on Melissa's case, as I love this girl. I think everyone who is concerned about Stephen and Brendan should feel the same for her. But let's stop talking about me and move on to my review of last night's episode. You can watch it here, and I've got a link to where you can watch it. Let me copy that link and put it in here too. Scroll down. Oh, I guess I gotta scroll up. Hold on. Why is this being so difficult? There it goes. All right. I took notes during the episode and I will go over what they covered, but will also be adding in my rants. I am very passionate when it comes to Melissa, so this could take a while, so I hope you have some time. Here we go. Melissa Calusinski was sentenced to 31 years for killing a 17-month-old boy named Benjamin Kingen. She has served 16 of those years so far. She was interrogated and arrested on January 14, 2009, so we just passed her 16-year anniversary. Melissa was at work as a teacher's aide at a daycare center and was the only adult in the room. She had put Ben on the carpet and then noticed he had crawled into a bouncy chair on the floor. Melissa saw orange foam coming out of his nose. She called for help. Her sister Crystal also worked there, and she started CPR until the ambulance got there. Sadly, an hour after Ben arrived at the hospital, he was pronounced dead. The pathologist claimed there was a skull fracture and that he saw blood. He said that he was hit within 3 hours of his death, yet there were no marks on Ben's body. Everyone from the daycare center were brought to Why does this want me to change this? Sorry. Okay, they want me to say was brought to different police departments to be interrogated. Melissa said over 60 times that she didn't do anything to Ben. She spent over 14 hours with the police and questioned for over 9 of those. The two officers from the Lake County Major Crimes Task Force finally got what they wanted, a false confession. One of those officers, George Falenko, has been involved in multiple false confession cases in Lake County, Illinois. One of them is the Marnie Yang case, which I also advocate for. Where's Marnie? Here's little Marnie. That's Stephen. Where's a picture of me with Marnie? There's me with Marnie. Let me see. Hold on a second. No, it's not. Okay. Sorry. I won't get into that here, but this is a bad guy, period. End of sentence. The officers knew what they were doing. They used the Reed technique, which is training they started in Chicago that is used all over the country, including on Brendan Dassey. You have to do things like put them in a small room, don't give them a clear path to the door, sit close to them, touch them, and on and on. This technique has been slammed by many as it doesn't get you a true confession. You are torturing people until they break. Why would I put I also remember? Oh, I meant to say I always remember. Hold on. I always remember something I heard Jesse Ventura say years ago when there was a big story on waterboarding someone. Jesse was a Navy SEAL and a pro wrestler. He said waterboarding was so intense that you will say anything to make it stop. You are not getting the truth. You are getting your narrative verified as the victim knows that is what they have to do to get out of there. When Melissa was finally let out of that tiny room and put into a police car, she immediately recanted and said she was innocent. No one listened to her. The state claimed that Ben was perfectly healthy until that day, but that isn't true. He was brought to the daycare 3 months earlier with a bump on his head. Melissa did not work at the daycare at that time. The daycare didn't want the liability, so they told the parents they had to take Ben to a doctor. The state claims it was an insignificant injury, yet just a day before Ben died, he was kept home due to being lethargic, having a fever, and throwing up. The state still claims that Ben was just fine. Erin Moriarty talked to a woman who had been at the daycare that day, Holly, who has never talked to them before. Holly said that Ben was a known headbanger. When she was sitting on the floor, he would throw himself back and hit his head on the floor. Holly told the police this when she was interrogated that day. It says that date. That day. So did another employee, Nancy. Nancy said she saw Ben do it twice that fateful day. The state mentioned over 30 times that there was a skull fracture at trial, yet the x-rays they gave the defense were unreadable. The pathologist, Manny Montez, you could go down a rabbit hole looking into that guy, claimed he felt a fracture with his bare hands. Years after the trial, Lake County got a new coroner, Dr. Paul Rudd, and he said he saw a membrane on pictures of Ben's brain. That means it was a scab over an old injury. Dr. Rudd brought in a renowned pathologist to look at it, and they agreed that this was an old injury from 2 to 3 months ago. The original pathologist, Dr. Choi, then admits he missed an old injury. Choi refuses to testify now, though. Scumbag. Melissa's dad, Paul, received a call telling him the x-rays used at trial had been manipulated, and there were different ones at the coroner's office. Dr. Rudd was able to get them, and when he was able to see what Ben's skull really looked like, he saw there was no fracture. Dr. Rudd then changed Ben's death certificate from homicide to undetermined. Kathleen Zellner is Melissa's attorney at this time, and she brings this new evidence to the same judge who sentenced Melissa, Judge Shanes. Dr. Rudd testifies that there wasn't a fracture. The prosecutors claim this isn't new evidence and that Melissa's original attorney, Paul DeLuca, could have just brightened the pictures the state had given to him. I want to rant so much right now about all of this. So the state is admitting that there isn't a fracture. They're using a technicality and saying there isn't any new evidence since the x rays existed at trial, and if you just turned up the brightness, you would see no fracture. Um, excuse me? The judge didn't know that, or the jury didn't know that, and would they convict someone when they hear that a coroner and pathologist lied about the cause of death? An expert said the x-rays were modified. Then we hear from Paul Foreman, who was the deputy coroner when Ben was brought to the coroner's office. He disputed everything that Manny Montez said. He said Montez not only didn't touch Ben, but he wasn't even there. Sadly, Lake County does everything they can to discredit and destroy anyone that doesn't follow the narrative of the Lake County Major Crimes Task Unit. Both Dr. Rudd and Foreman have had things happen to them due to going against the grain. For Foreman, they went after his credibility for being diagnosed as bipolar. Judge Shaines declared that Foreman was incredible and ruled against Melissa again. Shaines also said that DeLuca could have just brightened the x-rays. And that's all I have from what I've written so far. So now I will just read through my notes to finish my review on this video. And then when I'm done with this video, I'll go back to writing this up and then post it. So, so now what you're hearing now will be different than what I write. So you'll now have to read it to get where I go then. So now we get to 2022. That is when Eric Reinhart is elected to be the Lake County State's Attorney. So prior to Eric Reinhart, the State's Attorney was also somebody who that Lake County Attorney is somebody that is involved in a lot of wrongful convictions in Lake County. Lake County is the wrongful conviction capital. And so when we got Eric Reinhart, everybody involved with Melissa's case was very hopeful that Eric Reinhart would at the very least let Melissa get back into court. You know, we all know that Melissa should just be let out. This girl is innocent, but at the very least, let's get in there in the court and show all this evidence. And it's hard for me as I was somebody who worked for years in getting candidates elected. So I worked on the campaign side for quite some time, and I'm very involved in politics and elections. And now for the last 2 years, I have worked on state side because I am the chief of staff for a state representative. Eric Reinhart is somebody that I know in political circles, and I am personally Facebook friends with. Not that Facebook friends means anything. I know it's all la la land, but I have to resist the urge every time I make a post about Melissa or Marnie, since Marnie's case is also in his hands, to tag him. You know, Eric Reinhart and I have had private conversations about political stuff. I have made a point to never talk to him about Melissa because I am very scared of, I don't want to do anything that could hurt Melissa's case. Melissa's safety is paramount to me. So I'm unsure of of what to do. It's really hard. I know I have messaged Eric Reinhardt over the years and just said, look, if you want to know anything on Melissa's case, just let me know. And I've also driven Melissa's dad to Eric Reinhardt's office for him to bring him a whole bunch of evidence. But it's so tough. What to do? What to do? Um, so Eric Reinhardt had a meeting with Melissa's current attorney, Kathleen Zellner, and her original attorney, Paul DeLuca. Paul stays involved in Melissa's case. Everybody who was involved in Melissa's case and believes in Melissa's innocence are still involved today. You know, I have gone to several hearings on Melissa's case, and Paul DeLuca, um, Dr. Rudd, and Dr. Foreman, all Pauls, and Melissa's dad is Paul, all attend. Um, Everybody so strongly knows it's not just belief, it's science and facts that Melissa is innocent. And Cindy is asking, can Eric Reinhardt see this live? Well, after I'm done with this live and I share the video on my personal page, he will have the opportunity to see it. Cindy, I won't tag him. I debate it, but I won't tag him in it. So when Kathleen Zellner and Paul DeLuca met with Eric Reinhardt suggested that they he recommended a digital forensic company to look at the x-rays. And so Kathleen did just that. She hired this company, paid for it, and Melissa's case is not pro bono, by the way. So this is stuff that ultimately, you know, somebody is paying the cost of this, and it's not Eric Reinhardt, and it is not Lake County or the Lake County Major Crimes Task Force. So Kathleen follows the recommendation, hires this company, and they say the x-rays were manipulated. They altered the contrast on the coroner's computer. They can track all that. It was done in the coroner's office. And they said that there would be no way that Paul DeLuca could have made the x-rays bigger or the clarity better so you could see it. When you're here on Stephen Avery Project, Justice with Jax, you'll see that our profile picture is of those x-rays. So you can see when it's dark and you can't see anything. And then you see where it's light. Paul DeLuca, at trial, only had the dark x-rays. And he had no ability to make them light. These experts said that the state adjusted those images. They were the only ones that had the access to do it on the coroner's computer. Kathleen said when they told Eric Reinhardt about this, he was indignant and said the person who manipulated the x-rays should be held accountable. Then Kathleen brought in an expert on false confessions. And they said that police went in determined to get a confession. You see, Falenko tell Melissa there was a fracture. And they don't believe it's an accident. And Melissa over and over again said no, she didn't do anything. And then eventually, after 9 hours, she says she slipped. But that wasn't good enough for the officers in that room. They said that this injury, it wasn't possible to make this injury by slipping. Melissa knows this is something that has to be talked about, but she she really doesn't like having to think about this. But Melissa had been raped previously. And this expert says that that caused, obvious trauma for Melissa, and she's suffering from PTSD. And she has borderline intellectual functioning and a 4.8 grade level. So she's no match for these two officers using the Reed technique. And putting her in that tiny room, like she was in a tiny space when she was raped, you're going to say and do anything to get out of it. At the end of Melissa's confession, she asked how much longer is this going to be because she wants to go spend time with her parents and her puppy. Her puppy, Oreo. You see Oreo in when 48 Hours is showing old footage with Melissa's parents. It's Melissa's mom and dad and her sister Crystal are walking down their street, and her dad Paul is holding Oreo at that time. Um, Oreo has since died since Melissa has been in prison. Um, and that's horrible. And when Oreo died, Melissa's dad called me and he wanted us to do an emergency visit with Melissa, so we could tell her face to face. And so Paul arranged a visit, and the prison was very nice for this actually. When you go to the visitation room at Logan Correctional, it is this big rectangular room, and it is separated. Sorry, my voice has just been going today. It is separated. There's a hallway, a little hall in the middle where there's the guy's bathroom here and the girl's bathroom here. And for the most part, if there isn't a lot of visits, they put all visits on this side. And so the left side just sits open. So what the prison did for that day is and you're always assigned what table that you have to sit at. So they put us over on the left side, the farthest left, all the way over, with no one around us, so we could tell Melissa that her dog died. And nobody be right there. And also, I believe it was that same year, one of Melissa's grandmothers died. And Melissa has lost both grandmothers while she has been incarcerated. And something else I will tell you is every time I visit Melissa, I will have officers at the prison tell me they know Melissa is innocent. They call her Ski, and it's like, when's Ski getting out of here? Everybody knows Melissa is innocent. And she has been a, a gold star inmate. She stays out of the bullshit. She keeps to herself. Melissa has had a job like the entire time she's there. She's had the same bunkie for several years now, and in true Melissa fashion, she cares more about her bunkie than she does herself. Her bunkie has been really sick lately, and so a lot of calls Melissa has made to me was in asking me to do things to help her bunkie. Melissa has asked me because Melissa's bunkie it's another horrible story on why, and that woman is innocent too. She's in there on the accountability law that Illinois has, that since she was at a place where a murder occurred, she could be charged like she did the murder too. And she's not even from this country. So she was here visiting with her husband, and so her husband is the one who committed this crime, and he was able to escape back to Mexico, but they grabbed his wife and charged her with it. So she's been in prison for, I believe, longer than Melissa has so far. Um, and so it's harder for her cellmate to get money on her books and that kind of stuff. So there will be times that Melissa has asked me if I would put money on her Bunky's books. So I've done it, you know. And Melissa never asks me for a lot. Um and I find this true actually of every single wrongfully convicted person I have advocated for. Nobody has like tried to take advantage and ask me for a ton of stuff. And so the only things I have bought for Melissa is like she will ask for word search books. She has asked for SAT books because she feels being in prison, you know, she like loses things. So she wants things to try and keep her mind active. Melissa likes to draw. She is a fantastic artist. I actually have two tattoos of drawings that she sent me for my birthday. Um, so this is a Melissa Blues butterfly, and then this is a monarch butterfly that Melissa drew both of those and sent them to me, and I brought them to my tattoo artist. Um, so she has asked me for books to help her draw because like she'll draw things for other inmates that like they want her to draw a card for somebody, or she does pictures. I have two pictures hanging up. I've got framed downstairs that she sent me once. One is an eagle because Melissa and I have we talk about eagles, and one is a wolf. She's got tons of drawings that she has done for her parents, one of which is a um, picture of her two parents that she sent to them. So Melissa, as you know, I'm getting off from my notes here, but Melissa is a really special person that cares more about others than she does herself, especially her parents. Um, so let me get back to my notes. Let me find where I was. PTSD. Okay. So Judge Shanes didn't allow the false confession expert to testify. And now we get to Brenda. So, Brenda is not something that has ever been out publicly. It's something that, you know, the people behind the scenes in her case, we all know about Brenda. Brenda is somebody who worked at the daycare, and she quit the next day. Um, Aaron Moriarty found Brenda and talked to her in this episode. Brenda did not want her face shown. I, in a moment of bitchiness last night after I was done watching 48 Hours on Justice with Jax, I did post a picture of Brenda's face. Um, because Melissa's dad and I found her at one point I looked into where she was and where she worked and all of that. But we've never talked about Brenda publicly. And I knew that Brenda was going to be talked about in this episode. I wasn't sure what all they would reveal. And first let me read what was on the 48 hours that's in my notes. Um Brenda said she doesn't remember Ben getting an injury the 2 to 3 months prior to his death. Um, and that was about all they showed of Brenda. And I'm not sure what I can say on that because there's more. So I'm guessing I shouldn't say. Um, but we'll see if maybe Kathleen Zellner will post something on it. But um, you guys are smart, right? So you can probably put two and two together on why this is a big deal to find Brenda and that Brenda quit right away, right? Um, the daycare had to shut down after Ben died. Um, the family did sue and they got millions um, due to Ben's death. Um, there's also other things to know about the person that owned that daycare and the destroying of evidence. But nobody's talking about that, so I guess I didn't say that either. Um, so Kathleen filed a clemency petition. She wants our governor, J.B. Pritzker, to um, either exonerate Melissa or let her out on time served. She has served half of her sentence. Um, at the clemency board, the parole is it called? No, it's called the prisoner board review. And my stepdaughter just arrived so downstairs, so you're gonna hear my dogs bark for a minute. Sorry. Um, 48 hours showed some of that clemency hearing. Um, you do see my fat head. I did attend it, and I actually was wearing this shirt when I went. So it's got the Melissa Blues um, butterfly coming out of a cage and says "Free Melissa Calusinski." Um, I've also been wearing this that I had made for that hearing, and I've been wearing since then. That has a butterfly on each end and says "Free Melissa Kalusinski." When I attended that hearing, I brought those wristbands and gave them to everybody who was there supporting Melissa. I gave one to Kathleen Zellner. I gave one to Aaron Moriarty. I gave one to Melissa's dad. And I think I have up here in this room because my husband owns a print shop. That's why, it's easy for me to have a shirt made and wristbands made. And so my husband made me a whole bunch of them. So I still have a whole bunch of those and I've never figured out what I should do with them all. But yeah, so I have the only time I've taken this off is when I visit Melissa in prison because you really, I take off all my jewelry to go in, but I have when I've gone to prison, I've worn this shirt. So whatever. Um so yeah, you see my fat head in this bright pink shirt. Pink is Melissa's favorite color. Um so we had the clemency hearing in July, July 9th of last year. It was down in Springfield, Illinois, which is our capital. Um so And after that hearing, we were all encouraged to write a letter to our governor, um, asking that he grants her clemency. Or no, first it was months before that date. Kathleen wanted them by July 8th because the date was the 9th. But then, even after that hearing, since JB has not ruled yet, you can still write him a letter. And I have posted here on Justice with Jax. I'm not going to bother putting it um, in in here because it is so long. But I gave an example of a clemency letter, and here I can copy this part. Here is JB's Springfield address. He also has a Chicago address, and he's more in Chicago than he is Springfield. But I figure the Springfield office is the better one to send a letter asking that he grants Melissa clemency. And this is another conundrum for me due to my work in politics. So, like, I am a huge supporter of our governor. I actually worked for his first campaign. Um, and when I worked for his first campaign, I was a field organizer, and so I had to do events for him in Chicago and then two suburbs. Um, I was at his inauguration. I held a meet and greet for him. Um, I I have a lot of connections to our governor. I was in a commercial speaking out on his behalf during one of his campaigns. Um, I really like and respect our governor. I have been to bill signings, um, but I've never talked to him about Melissa. I did bring her dad once to an event that I knew JB was going to be at, and Paul wanted to meet JB, and he had a whole folder of evidence on Melissa's case, and so he wanted to personally hand it to JB. So I brought Paul to that, and I have pictures of it, of because I took pictures of Paul with JB. Um, so I did write a letter to JB. But I didn't personalize it. But and I know this sounds like a douchebag, but JB does know who I am. When he sees me, he knows my name. Yes, he's a politician, so politicians have to do that. But I so want to talk to him about Melissa personally. I will be seeing him at an event. The next time I'll see JB is probably February 8th. Um, it's not appropriate for me to talk about Melissa, but I want to talk to him about Melissa. I don't know what to do, but um, it's so hard. So, um, at the clemency hearing, Ben's mother and father were there. Ben's father didn't speak, but the mother did. And the Ben's family talked to Eric Reinhardt. And so Eric Reinhardt wrote a letter asking the board to deny her clemency. I'm going to look at this camera and I'm going to talk directly to Eric Reinhardt right here. I don't know if he'll watch this or not. But Eric, I know that you know Melissa is innocent and this is a miscarriage of justice. I know nobody wants to upset parents of a child who died. But this was a tragic accident, not caused by Melissa Calusinski. So when Ben's mother said she hears about where is justice for Melissa and she wants to know where is justice for Ben, Melissa and all her supporters also want justice for Ben. Putting Melissa in prison for so far 16 years of a 31-year sentence is not justice for Ben. Melissa had nothing to do with what happened to Ben. There was no fracture. There was no blood. And even if Melissa had dropped that baby or threw him down the way they had her demonstrate, it would not have caused the alleged fracture that they now admit isn't there, because all you had to do was turn up the contrast and you would have been able to see at the time there was no fracture. But something the experts testified to is Paul DeLuca did not have the ability to change that contrast because it was done on the coroner's computer and then it's saved and sent out. So you can't modify it from that. It can only be done at the coroner's office on their computer. So there is no fracture. You see the boy's head looks like a giant light bulb. So very sad. Prior injury that happened 2 to 3 months before this day, when Melissa didn't even work at the daycare, happened. The boy went to the doctor, had a lump on his head, lethargic, throwing up, fever. The poor kid's brain was swelling. And the doctor that saw him from when he had the bump on his head missed it. This boy's brain was swelling, and that's what killed him. Nothing Melissa Calusinski did caused that child to die. Everybody is very sad for Ben's parents and his siblings and the entire family. But that doesn't mean this girl, Melissa, was 22 at the time. Melissa's rotting away. Did anyone get the records from the doctor? They disappeared, Cindy, from the daycare. Somebody, the owner of the daycare, didn't want to be held liable for anything, so wanted everything to disappear. I don't know if the doctor still has any records. Don't know. Melissa did nothing. 16 years. On 48 Hours, we see that Holly from the daycare also wrote a letter to Governor J.B. Pritzker. This prisoner review board has made their decision as of this month, January 2025, and they have sent it to our governor. The show did not say what it is. They say it's confidential. It has been sent to our governor, and there is no deadline for our governor to rule. So I am please asking you to write a letter to Governor J.B. Pritzker at 401 South Spring Street, Springfield, Illinois, 62704, and tell him that Melissa is innocent and she should go home to her family. And that was the end of 48 Hours. If you go to 48 Hours Facebook page, they've got a whole bunch of links to different videos from the episode, and they also have a link to the complete episode. And on the one post they made that was um, they posted right before the episode aired. The producer of the show was on the Facebook page during while the episode was airing in all the different time zones, and people were able to post their questions, and the producer was answering their questions. I will say that as of right now, all the ones that I saw on there, almost all of them believe in Melissa's innocence. The only time that I saw any posts, and they were rare, I would say like a handful of them, they all said, well, why would she? Nobody would say they killed a baby if they didn't kill a baby. And the producer kept saying, keep watching, we'll explain that, and it happens more than you think. And I think I'm preaching to the choir here on Justice with Jax and anywhere else that I end up sharing this video, because you're already a supporter of the wrongfully accused, and I hope Melissa. And so you already know about coerced confessions and know that's a thing. We all say that. I said that until I watched Making a Murderer. That I would never confess to something I didn't do. And also before Making a Murderer, and now remember I said I was a true crime fan. I've got books here on my bookshelf on Hillside Strangler, Jeffrey Dahmer, Manson. Because that's all. I'm old, so it was also before internet. So you're really gonna read books, right? So I've got a ton of books on that. Um, Making a Murderer is what really opened my eyes on don't talk to police and ask for an attorney, no matter who you are. Because prior to Making a Murderer, I just always felt if the police get you and you're prosecuted and what you did it. I never thought about that police just have a narrative and they're gonna shove that square peg into the round hole and make you say that you did it when you didn't. After watching Making a Murderer, I can't remember how old my son was at the time. 20, I think he was. I talk about it in my book, and so his age is probably in the book since I wrote the book a few years ago. But I even then instantly am telling my son, if the police question you for anything, I don't care what it is, you have to lawyer up. So, but when you get somebody like Melissa or Brendan, for sure they are no match. But then you get Marnie Yang. Now, Marnie Yang has also been diagnosed as she is on the spectrum. But just because you're on the spectrum, people think that means if you're on the spectrum that you have like zero intelligence. And that's not true at all. Marnie is exceptionally smart. And Marnie confessed because they were going to go after her son again, because they had gone after her son previously, and her 16-year-old son, ended up in a mental facility because he had a break from the police going after him for a murder. And now they were going to do it again. So Marnie figured, I'm just going to confess so they leave my son alone, and there's no proof that I did this. And so the lawyers will straighten it out. And she's been in prison as long as Melissa. Melissa and Marnie were actually in Lake County Jail at the same time. And they're both at Logan Correctional. So you don't have to be on the spectrum of low intelligence to falsely confess. The exonerated 5 One's called the Central Park Five. These boys are not um, on the spectrum, and they confessed. It happens all the time. You do not know what you're going to end up doing in that room after being in there for hours and hours, and you just want to get out. And so Melissa's asking, is this going to be over soon? Because I just want to go visit with my parents and my dog. Brendan wanted to go back to school and wanted to watch WrestleMania. Um, they have no clue that they've just confessed to a murder and they're not going home again. So, Eric Reinhardt, I know that this is a tough one because it is a young child. But two wrongs don't make a right. Keeping Melissa in prison is a travesty. And if you want to say she accidentally dropped him, that then triggered uh, this brain swelling to then kill him, she has served 16 years. But she didn't. She is innocent. Um, I have gone on for how long? How long have I been on here? Why doesn't this tell me? It used to tell me how long I've been on. Or is this stuff covering it? Oh yeah. So okay, I'm at an hour. So I'm just gonna call this to a close for today because I have covered the entire episode. If anybody ever has any questions about this case, you can message me here on Justice with Jax. You can email justicewithjax@gmail.com. If you are somebody who knows anything about this case, let me get the link for it. Kathleen T. Zellner. If you go to KathleenTZellner.com, she has, oh, look, second thing on there is Melissa Calusinski's clemency hearing. But then she's got, if you're at the top and you go to cases, then you will see in highly publicized active cases, Melissa Calusinski is right under Ryan Ferguson. And come on, thing. Why does this stuff make it so difficult for me to find? I want to post the link. There we are. Here's the link to Kathleen T. Zellner's website. And so you can go on there where, okay, so you can see her oral argument from 2018. I was also at that, and it's got the link to the two different 48 Hours episodes, Blaming Melissa, Fight for Melissa. You can read the state's brief, you can read Zellner's brief, and then there is a whole lot of articles that you could click on if you're interested. She's got the post-conviction petition on there. And then you've also got, let me go to the home page. Does she have a thing on here? Okay. You can, come on, toll free. If you are somebody who knows something on this case, please reach out to Kathleen T. Zellner. She's got a toll-free number, 888-796-1342. And then local number. Her office is actually one town over from me. Her local number is 630-955-1212. So if you know something, please reach out to Kathleen Zellner's office. I am next visiting Melissa. I actually scheduled my visit the other day. So I am going in February to see her next. I feel really bad the day that it was released that 48 Hours was going to be airing on Saturday. So that was on Wednesday, I want to say, is when we found out. And Melissa called me. I was at work and I was actually interviewing an intern looking to work at our office, so I couldn't take her call. So I didn't get to talk to her prior, leading up to, knowing it's going to air on Saturday, because we've known it's been in the works. They interviewed Melissa's parents and sister again. They went into the prison and interviewed Melissa. They were, Aaron Moriarty was at that clemency hearing. I had to text a picture to Paul. Melissa's dad had called me that I have a picture of Melissa. It's one that, like, when you see the banner in front of Melissa's house, my husband makes that for them. He's made them, I believe, 3 over the years, because and he's made this banner that's behind me too. It's either been destroyed from the weather, because it's out there for years. Paul does not ever take that banner down, or sometimes it looked like somebody has purposely sliced it. So on the most recent banner that my husband made, Melissa had sent me a picture that she had taken of her in the prison that she really liked. And so that's the picture that I had my husband put on the banner. And so the producers asked for that picture. And so I sent them the picture, but then it wasn't even on the episode at all. So, whatever. And I keep saying I should grab that picture and post it so you all can see what that picture is. And it's not a picture that I have here, because it's actually in a frame at my office on my desk. So, yeah, I need to do that. So, all right. So I'm going to end this. I'm going to finish writing my article, and then I will post that people can read it who don't want to sit on here for an hour looking at me and listening to me talk. But I'm just gonna end again. Melissa is innocent. There's nothing in it for me on any of these cases that I work on. Stephen Avery, Melissa Calusinski, Marnie Yang. And if I had any evidence to show that any of them were guilty, I would say it. That, whoa, my bad. This is new evidence or whatever. And the person is now guilty. To be completely transparent, Melissa is the one that I'm closest to, as she is the one, that I regularly visit, I regularly talk to. She calls me every week. We email, but both email and mail from her prison has been horrible. That I still have not received her Christmas card that she sent me. Still not here. And Melissa doesn't wait until the last minute to send it. And on Friday, just this past Friday, when I got home from work and got my mail, I had a Hanukkah card from Marnie. from the same prison Melissa's in. So, and Marnie also isn't waiting until the last minute. She would have sent it to me before Hanukkah. And I just got it on Friday. So the prison has just been horrible with mail, whether or not it is, put it at the goes through the post office or it's an email. She sends me emails and I don't get it for a month. And so I talked to her on the phone since she has sent the email. So then by the time I get the email, we discussed weeks ago whatever was in the email. It's really ridiculous. But I'm not going to get it into my rant on Melissa's prison now. So, all right, I'm going to go. Thank you, everybody who joined me live. I know it's a Sunday and, people aren't on the internet or on Facebook, but I wanted to do this when it was still fresh in my mind from watching the episode. If anything happens in Melissa's case, as soon as I know, you will know. Right to JB Pritzker. JB, if you watch this, I know JB's not going to watch this. JB, if you watch this, talk to me. Or his lieutenant governor. Oh my God. So JB's lieutenant governor, Juliana Stratton, another person. I love her. And I actually have pulled her aside years ago at an event because one of the things that Juliana Stratton and JB's wife, MK Pritzker, has said is one of their top priorities is inmates and especially women. And Logan Correctional is the only maximum facility for women in Illinois. And so they have said that they have real concerns for inmates at Melissa's prison. And so I pulled Juliana aside to, one, I can tell you things that are going on in that prison because I'm there regularly. Prior to me getting the job with the state representative, because my jobs on campaign side were more flexible, and now I am a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 type of thing. But before my job here, I was visiting Melissa every other week. I've got a lot of visits into that prison and know things that are going on there. And MK and Juliana have taken tours of that facility. And it's like, but no, you are not getting the real tour. You are not going where things are happening that need to be changed in that prison. And then I also wanted to specifically talk to Juliana about Melissa's case. And Juliana told me that she absolutely wanted to talk to me about it. And then she brought me to her chief of staff and had me get the chief of staff's card and reach out to her to set up an appointment. And that was 4 years ago. Might be even more than 4 years ago. I've seen Juliana at tons of events. If you were to go on my personal Facebook page, you're going to see pictures of me with JB and pictures of me with Juliana and me with both of them. Yeah, I know. I'm like a name dropper sounding like douchebag. But none of these people will talk to me. It can be off the record. I will do anything and everything to try to get Melissa Calusinski out of prison. And she needs to go home to her parents. Her dad, you saw him just a little bit in this last episode. And if you watch the other 2 episodes, you will see him. Paul goes to everything. Every hearing, you'll see him typically wear the same pink tie. Again, Melissa's favorite color is pink. Paul will not rest until his daughter is home. And Melissa and her dad do have a really special relationship. Melissa and her mom do too. Don't Don't get me wrong. And Melissa's mom is a great woman. She just, Cheryl really doesn't like the spotlight at all. She's not on social media. She doesn't want to talk to anybody. So when you see her on 48 hours, it's only due to the love she has for her daughter that she would do that. Cheryl doesn't want to be on TV or talk to anybody on camera, but she loves her daughter, her sister Crystal, who was there that day. Crystal has kids. So Melissa has nieces and nephews that she doesn't get to see, hasn't gotten to see them grow up. It's a really sad. So, right to JB Pritzker. JB's got no deadline. He just got the recommendation this month. Our government is not in session right now. They go back into session the last week of January. And then January through May, the closer you get to May, the more our legislators are in session. So the busier they get. So let's come on, JB. Let's do it now. So again, okay, sorry. See, I go off these, squirrel. Thank you, everybody who watched this live. Thank you to everybody who's going to watch it recorded. And as soon as I know anything new on Melissa, I will bring it to you. Investigation continues.